Hey, soccer fans, welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. I'm your host, Nick. We are talking about the Chicago Fire's season opener at Columbus Crew this past weekend. We are talking about a few other of the surprising results from around Major League Soccer as they kick off their 30th season in existence. A great anniversary, especially when you have the 30th expansion team getting their first ever win in their first ever game. Kudos to San Diego. But for our intents and purposes, we're focused in on the Chicago Fire. We are going to look at the stats of the game. We're going to do a little film breakdown. Let me see how this goes with some of the new streaming technology here. We'll be replaying some videos. Hopefully YouTube doesn't give me any copyright strikes, since I am providing added commentary, and I think MLS does allow for it. YouTube, listen up. I used to do copyright stuff when I was in law school. This is all fair use here. I'm adding commentary. This is all protected speech here. All right, guys. All right. Anyway, I do insurance law now. I don't know what I'm saying anymore when it comes to IP law, but I think we should be good. We're going to dive into it. So if you want to watch along with the breakdown, please go subscribe to the YouTube channel, Glasshouse Soccer. And if you want to join the conversation, you can find me on Glasshouse Soccer at social media, or you can email me, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com. Just like friend of the show, Israel did. He was at the Columbus game with his son, as well as a number of Chicago Fire supporters, making the trip to Columbus, the closest away game that the Chicago Fire will have this season. Thanks for sending me the pictures. There are some great shots of the supporters marching into the stadium, waving around their red Chicago flags, and just filling up their corner of the stadium. It was great to see, but unfortunately, the result wasn't great to see. The Chicago Fire fall 4-2 to the Columbus Crew in the opener, squandering a 2-1 lead in the late in the first half and into the second half. Now, part of the reason that the Chicago Fire had a tough time closing this game out was their depth. They did have a number of players out in this match, and that's why we saw Sam Williams and Harold Osorio get called up and sign their short-term agreements. So if you recall the rule here, per MLS rules, a club may sign a player from its affiliate, MLS Next Pro or USL, to a maximum of 4 short-term agreements up to 4-day contracts each season. So they can get 4-term deals, maximum of 16 days. An individual player may be included on up to 4 MLS regular season match rosters each season. However, that player may appear in no more than 2 regular season matches. An individual player may appear in any number of non-league games during the terms of his 4 short-term agreements. That was a little bit of a mouthful there, but essentially you get your 4 short-term deals. I thought that was going to be changed for this season. Apparently not, but the change is that you can appear in any non-league games during the course of it. So expect to see more of these 4-day short-term deals being used around U.S. Open Cup time, at least for the Fire, and for other clubs around Leagues Cup or early on in CONCACAF Champions Cup. So they brought up Harold Osorio, they brought up Sam Williams, a couple of midfielders, because they needed a little bit more depth here. But they probably could have used a little bit of the depth in defense there as well. Just with some of the miscues along the back line. We saw Jonathan Dean having to start in place of an injured Leo Barroso. We saw Marin Haile Selassie was out as well, so that provided just one less sub who's got some MLS chops on him in order to come in and kind of steady things out as well. And I'm not saying Bamba and Zinkernagel couldn't do it, but MLS is a different beast. We know that. And so for them to have this in their first game was a difficult challenge, as well as not having a second striker, having to see Tom Barlow come in. And we're going to talk a little bit about Tom Barlow and what he brings and what he doesn't bring to this team, because there is a very, very vivid, is that the right word? A very active discussion around Tom Barlow's role on the Chicago Fire team. That what good's a forward? On the one hand, what good's a forward if you can't score goals? And on the other hand, he's contributing so much to the training team. Let's just get into it. Let's get into this Tom Barlow conversation right now, because I've already broached the topic. I've already given you the 2 sides of the topic. And let me tell you, I think we should get rid of him. I don't think we should have ever signed him. And maybe hindsight is 2020. Someone will have to go back and listen to the Feed the Fire episodes from a couple seasons ago when they did sign him. I think he was worth taking a flyer, but the fact that Tom Barlow has been your number 2 striker coming into this season and has contributed a lot of minutes last season without contributing any goals is a big indication that it's a failed signing. And we all are going to praise Tom Barlow for being this kind of MLS vet, for being this training stalwart, for being this great teammate. But your striker isn't scoring goals. And that is the biggest problem. So I think whatever benefit that Barlow brings otherwise to this squad is being far outweighed by the underutility of the striker position and by the lack of production from the striker position. Now, if Hugo Kuipers is 100% healthy and can play a full 90, hey, who knows what happens in this game? But still, Hugo Kuipers isn't going to be playing 90 minutes for 34 matches throughout the season and whatever postseason the Fire make. You're going to need a second striker to come in, whether it is to rest your starter or give a different look in your tactics and your formations. And Tom Barlow isn't providing anything. He can press all day if he wants to, but none of that is actually led to anything on the score sheet. And that's the counter argument, though, that Tom Barlow is a workhorse and a great teammate. And the fact that he works at training so hard that he is increasing the play of his teammates, increasing the level of training, and eventually that'll translate to on the pitch. Now, I say eventually because we haven't seen it in as far as results or a better defensive effort from the Fire. We saw what happened in this match with the own goal and the defensive lapses that Fire fans sadly are used to seeing. But I would rather have a striker that scores than a striker that is really, really good on the training pitch. And I think a lot of other fans would as well. And here's the other thing. If you're saying Tom Barlow's value is that he elevates the level of training, well, go bring up some young kids then. You're telling me that the rest of this team and the rest of this organization doesn't try hard at practice or try that hard at practice, that Tom Barlow's the hardest working man at practice? We're talking practice here. Guys, we're talking practice. So I really think that, look, you're not going to get your entire roster set in one offseason. I get that. But the fact that people are defending Tom Barlow because of how good he practices, I think is a little bit ridiculous, given the fact that the Chicago Fire need goals to win games, just like every other MLS club needs goals to win games. And we're going to look at some of the film here, some of the highlights, and I'm going to show you what Tom Barlow isn't doing on the pitch if he's such a workhorse. All right, let's look at the stats, and then we'll get into the film. So, as we know, it was a 4-2 come-from-behind victory for the Columbus Crew. Brian Gutierrez gets the goal scoring going in the 13th minute off a great assist from Jonathan Bamba. Russell Rowe equalizes in the 20th. Then Gutierrez, again on another assist from Jonathan Bamba, gets his second goal, his first ever brace as a Major League Soccer player, which also gets him Team of the Week honors, match day honors, whatever they call it. And even though they lost by 2 goals, you still put Gutierrez in there. I wonder if this is the start of a young player of the year campaign here for Brian Gutierrez. The Fire, give up the lead, lose by 2, and he's still named to the team of the match day because of his 2-goal performance. Young player of the year, look out, here it comes. It's Brian Gutierrez to lose at this point, 1 week into the season. But then before halftime, Carlos Terán with the own goal in the 38th minute. I'm not going to show that replay. That don't need to see that. He and Jonathan Dean both go for the ball at the same time. They kind of run into each other, and Terán gets a poor foot on the ball to clear it. It goes right over Brady's head. Brady's leaning the other way, not expecting it to deflect right back towards the goal. And then really what I think turned this game, and obviously goals turn games, but it was the Diego Rossi goal in first half stoppage time. And that sends the Fire from a 2-1 lead to an own goal and a last minute before halftime type of goal to give up the lead all in the span of like 8 or 9 minutes. And so that really turned the Fire from what a hot start they've had, we're a new team, to crap, we really are the same old Fire with different names on the jerseys. And then it's Diego Rossi to seal things in the 50th minute, 5 minutes into the second half, where he gets his second goal. and that is the final 4-2. Columbus actually got a fifth goal, but it was overturned. I believe it was for offside. There are some shouts that a couple of these goals, especially the first one that Russell Rowe scored, should have been a foul against Osorio, and the goal shouldn't have counted. But when you're playing balls like this out of the back, when you have a keeper in Chris Brady, and I was defending him when I was previewing this match with the Wiseman Say podcast, that Brady's better than Schulte, and Brady's going to be your next USMNT keeper coming out of nowhere. But when he's playing the ball out of the back like that to his defensive midfielder straight up the middle when he's being marked, look, Osorio's got to get a better first touch, and Osorio has to get that separation. But Brady's got to recognize that situation of, I'm not going to play it, I'm just going to play it long. And so that's a learning experience for him. And that was a mistake on Brady and Osorio on that one. So those were the goals, and those are some of the lowlights as well. But looking specifically at the stats, the Chicago Fire, for wanting to be a possession-based team this season, only had 37.3% possession, according to MLSsoccer.com. They mustered 13 shots, 6 on goal, so a little bit of an improvement from last season. The defense ended up blocking 3 shots. They had 448 total passes and completed them at an 85.7% rate, so a fairly good passing game from the Fire. However, it did not lead to a lot more of those key passes, the increased shots on goal. I would like to see, 7, 8 at a minimum. Also, they only took 2 corner kicks, so it wasn't like they were getting the ball into the corners, into the channels, but maybe that's a different style of tactics that we're seeing. We did see a lot of overlaps and underlaps, a lot of overloads, and a lot of movement of the ball, which is good. But then in the second half, the same type of 2024 Fire play where they possessed and moved the ball but did not create anything from it. Only 4 total crosses, 3 offside, 15 aerial duels won to the Crew's 8. That's fantastic. And we're going to point out one of those aerial duels from Hugo Kuipers that led to to one of Gutierrez's goals. Now, their XG was only 1.2, so they do need to create better chances. Brady has to play better, only 1 save on 4 shots on goal from Columbus. The defense had 4 clearances, committed 17 fouls. That was the other problem. Too many fouls. The Fire are back into, they already have that reputation again of being a physical team that fouls. Now, I hate to rip on a fellow Greek, but there were a few things that head referee Foti Bazakos let go that should have been called a foul, and there are probably a few things that he called a foul that should have been let go. I guess you could say it all is a wash at the end of the day, and that the Fire's defensive lapses are really what doomed them. I don't think officiating ruined it here for them, with the exception maybe of that goal that Osorio gave up when he was maybe not fouled by the Columbus Crew and turned the ball over at the edge of his 18. But again, I don't think this game came down to officiating. If anything, the good and the bad calls went both ways here. Now, MLSsoccer.com does give you a few more stats. They give you a nice shooting breakdown. The Fire had 2 goals from 6 shots on target, 4 off target, and 3 blocked. So you're getting a little bit more of a detail into that. But really, if you're looking at the possession, the Chicago Fire only controlled maybe 10 minutes of this entire game, if you want to look at that breakdown there, as far as the possession goes. So the Fire did not have a good statistical game. The Fire had a very good first half from an offensive standpoint, but that was about it. So they played about a good quarter of the game. Now let's see if we can pull up the highlights here and take a look at, do a little game film here on Gutierrez's first goal. Now I've got the closed captions on if you want to check that out, and I'm going to hit play and I'm going to kind of narrate a little of what I see. The ball starts in the middle of the field here with Columbus on the ball, and you see the Chicago Fire kind of in a bit of a back 3-ish, back 4, and we'll see how the play develops. So they try to play the ball across. Gutman reads it well and intercepts the pass. Plays it to Bamba. Everyone stops and watches from the Columbus perspective. Even from the Fire perspective, there are some late runs. And I paused it here because I want to show you the defensive lapse from Columbus on this one. Bamba gets wide. He gets down into the corner here. And this is the perfect position for him to be in, because if you look at the 2 defenders, both Crew defenders went back towards the center of the pitch, towards the center of their goal of their 18-yard box. They did not communicate here for one of them to try and close down Bamba and one of them to take the center of the pitch away. So now Bamba has all this space and time. And this is something that Schulte needed to call out to his defenders and something Brady also needs to call out to the Fire defenders here. So let's play it and see how this play develops. And I want you to watch the runners coming in because you will see now 1, 2, 3 runners coming in. You see Kuipers run right into where that PK spot is and pull up his run there. You see Zinkernagel make a far post run and then cut back around towards the near post. And now you have a third attacker, Brian Gutierrez, making a run to the top of the box where he receives the ball and puts it into the low corner for the first goal of the season for the Chicago Fire. This is how the offense needs to look if you are the Chicago Fire. And let's take a look at the second goal, and we will see some very similar play from the Chicago Fire as well. They get the ball out wide. Oh, hang on. I'm going to restart it here. It was a little glitch with MLSsoccer.com. But watch first Hugo Kuipers. Watch what he does here. He tracks back and wins the header at midfield over Darlington Nagbe to get the ball to a wide open Brian Gutierrez. That is the key effort that sets up this goal. It's Kuipers dropping back into this, like even past the center circle, almost the defensive third, winning the 50-50 ball because the attackers here, or you're seeing the ball having to be cleared out from the back. So winning that 50-50 ball, turning it into possession, that is where I think we're losing something with Tom Barlow. He is usually trying to stretch the field and press the other opponents. Hugo Kuipers knows when to drop back and get mixed up. And I didn't like it last season. I didn't like my striker dropping so far back, but I'm okay with it now this year because we've got legit wingers in Zinkernagel and Bamba who, when their strikers dropping back and winning possession, they're flaring out wide and pushing downfield to receive the pass. So when Kuipers wins the ball, gets it to Gutierrez, Bamba and Zinkernagel are already there for the outlet pass. And oops, I hit the wrong button there. Let's go back again. But you're going to see as this play develops, the 3 runs into the box. You are going to see now Gutierrez make the central run. You are going to see Zinkernagel at the far post. And then you're going to see Orahel pull up at the top of the box. Again, Bamba's got the ball on the left. He's got 3 runners in the box. You've got Columbus Crew defense scrambling. And he lays it off this time for Gutierrez, who 5 holes Patrick Schulte. And as I put on Twitter, that should be the end of his USMNT career at the feet of Brian Gutierrez. Now, also, thanks Gerald Lucas over at the Wise Men Say podcast for saying, yeah, and Diego Rossi ended Brady's chances at the USMNT. Maybe so, but this is what the offense is supposed to look like. Turnover in the midfield or the buildup from the back. You get it out wide to your wingers. You have multiple runs into the box. And then your winger is skilled enough. We saw with Bamba, he's skilled enough to be able to pick out which is the correct run and who's going to have the best chance of success to find the back of the net. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen here. I think that is everything we need to talk about from a Chicago Fire offensive perspective and things that you need to look for as fans. If you're going to judge the Fire on their performance, if they're making these kinds of runs, if they're getting the ball out wide, if they're winning the 50-50s, or if they're creating turnovers, we also saw how high up the field the Chicago Fire were drawing their line of confrontation, if you will, or how far up the field they're beginning their press. You saw that in stark contrast to anything we've seen in the last 3 seasons, that they were really putting pressure on the Columbus back line. And you saw Dean pushing up. You saw Gutman pushing up. It was only until Wilfred Nancy said, I don't care about the Chicago Fire wingbacks. I want Moreira. I want Farsi. I want everyone pushing up and pressuring them. And it was going to be a battle of which defensive line is going to break. And it was the Chicago Fire that broke under the pressure of Columbus and under I don't know if you want to call it some bad defending on their own part, miscommunications, lack of cohesion. We did see them fall into some of those bad habits where they continue to backpedal towards their own 6-yard box, opening up some space. So the Fire defense had a terrible, terrible game, but we saw from those first 2 goals, that's what the Chicago Fire offense could be. We still got to give credit to the Crew, a very, very good team, even without Cucho and even without Christian Ramirez striking for them. They're very well coached tactically. They know where to go. They're a cohesive unit. So, look, I would have loved to draw to open this up. I would have loved to win, to be honest, but I would have taken a draw to open the season up. But if you're going to lose by 2 to the Crew on an opening day when the Fire haven't had any time to gel, when the defense is still trying to figure itself out, when the offense is still trying to figure out their patterns and what they do when they're trying to force goals to recover a draw or a lead late. Am I making excuses? Maybe a little bit, but it's the first game. We got 33 more to go, and I do expect the Fire to kind of figure some of this stuff out over the next couple of weeks. Now, that is what I have to say about the Chicago Fire's game. We'll try to do a preview episode later this week, but the Chicago Fire will be welcoming DC United to Soldier Field this upcoming Saturday, March 1st, for the home opener. Kicks off at 7:30 Central Time. I'll be there with my son. Looking forward to seeing all you fans back out in the parking lot, tailgating, cheering, chanting, everything. Very excited for the home opener. Couple things that I wanted to point out from around the league over this past weekend. It was nice to see LAFC kind of open things up with Minnesota. That way we didn't have to have a Miami love fest for the first 4 hours of the day. We know Miami had their kickoff pushed back because they rescheduled their CONCACAF Champions Cup game from Tuesday to Wednesday due to the cold. We also saw Messi lose his cool a little bit after helping out with the equalizer in, as people are calling it, added Messi time, because they got an extra 10 minutes of stoppage time in which Messi came back and equalized against New York City. But he was hot about something with the referee. He even went after a New York City coach. So we'll see if the league, I'm not going to hold my breath, gives him any discipline for accosting a referee, especially when there's so much talk around only captains can talk to officials. They want to stop the whole mass confrontation issue that goes on when a referee makes a questionable call. So nice to see LAFC kick things off. I got to say, the Minnesota jerseys looked a little better in person on the pitch than I thought they would from when I saw the release promos for them. Atlanta gets a big 3-2 victory over Montreal. Lade Loft gets his first goal. Cincinnati, good 1-0 win over the Red Bulls. Meanwhile, the Chicago Fire's next opponent, and another team that they will be battling to stay out of the bottom of the Eastern Conference with, DC United ties Toronto 2-2. As I mentioned, Miami and NYC draw 2-2. This was a surprising result. Philly goes to Orlando on opening weekend after turning over parts of their roster, after not making any major signings, and ends up with a 4-2 win at Orlando. I know the Orlando fans in my group chat were a little stunned, a little upset. So we will see if this is something that Orlando is just a hiccup and will turn it around and finish towards the top of the East as they're predicted, or is Philly not in as bad a shape as we all thought they were? Turning to the Western Conference, we see Houston fall to Dallas 2-1. Jumping back to the East, Nashville and New England played to a 0-0 draw. Another kind of decent result. You know, these two teams are struggling right now, and the Fire should be able to leap above Nashville and New England by the end of the season. St. Louis hosted Colorado to a 0-0 draw. Seattle draws Charlotte 2-2. But the big scoreline from this weekend, San Jose 4. San Jose Earthquakes, wooden spoon holders, 4 goals to Real Salt Lake 0. Now, we know Real Salt Lake's offense took a hit, losing some players, especially Chicho Arango. And we saw the benefit of San Jose with all their new signings and Bruce Arena coaching. They looked like a different club. And one of my contacts in our MLS creator chat said, do I have a competent team here? Do I have a real club again? So congrats to the Quakes fans. Hopefully this ends years of misery, because if it can happen for you, it can happen for us here too. Then on Sunday, I'm loving the Sunday afternoon and night games. I get to watch a little bit more soccer. I get to hear more about the league. I just get to kick and put my feet up at the end of the weekend and just relax and enjoy a little of it with the kids. And eventually I'll get my wife to buy into it. Just you wait and see. I will get her to buy into the Sunday night soccer with us. Actually, on a quick sidebar here, I was playing MLS Quest in their first iteration, their first go around. They started the second round, so get in on it now. And I was able to complete a quest, and I won a Fanatics gift card. So all I had to do was pay some of the tax and a couple extra bucks. So for a grand total of, I think, $6 out of my pocket, I was able to get my wife a nice Fanatics Chicago Fire hat, all black, because that's her fashion sense. She is a Greek woman. She will be wearing all black, so she can wear it to any occasion, but hopefully this helps her get into a little bit of the soccer spirit as well. But yeah, these Sunday games were awesome. For Vancouver to drop 4 goals on Portland, as people have been saying, it's like 9 straight goals against Portland. Portland does get a consolation one towards the end of the game there, but Vancouver looks like a team on a mission. And then San Diego opening up at LA Galaxy. I mean, pick your storyline, right? Expansion team versus defending champion, new interstate rivals, Chucky Lozano from all his time in Mexico coming now to MLS, all these different storylines here. And this was one heck of a game. And it was San Diego that converted their opportunities for the 2-0 win. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how San Diego continues their run. That's everything I wanted to say for tonight. Not going to do too many long-winded episodes, though I always say that and I always end up going a lot longer. We're going to get some commentary from John Donovan again this season. We're going to get some extra sponsorships going with Skira Icelandic Spring Water. We've renewed our agreement with them just before the season kicked off. So make sure you are out at your 7-Eleven supporting the show and supporting Skira Icelandic Spring Water. Also, I hear they got a deal in place now to distribute at Costco, so you can get your Skira in bulk. Look out for that at a Costco near you as well. And with that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you for all your commentary. Thank you for interacting. Thank you for sticking with me through the long and busy offseason. MLS is back. The Chicago Fire is back. Feed the Fire is back. Let's go Fire.